Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi. Hi. Yes, wave. That's good. Deborah, the sound all right?
It sounds great. Your sound is very strong.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, I'm so excited about, I guess we'll have more people coming in as we go. We had quite a few people, hundreds, 300, I think, signed up for this. So we'll just give it a little time, but I'll go over the logistics with you and talk a little bit about what we're going to do, then just open it up. So first of all, welcome to everyone. I know I had to choose a time and a lot of the Europeans didn't get in, but we have people from down under and from all over Canada, the States and other places. So it's really, really good to have this opportunity to be with you. And on a subject that I really feel is an important subject now with all the change that's happening in the world. So tonight we're going to be talking about opening the lens of perception and dismantling the walls of our inner prison. So I'll be talking a lot about that. I'll talk for a while. We'll open for questions. Please, if you have a question, put something in the chat and Deborah will either answer it or ask me and we'll jump in there and get that answered. After I do a little talk about this and talk about what does that mean, opening the lens of perception, and we'll have some questions and hopefully we'll do some real work. I do these monthly calls, almost every month anyway, these masterclass calls, so that people can get a taste of the work that we do in the way of the mystic and the advanced courses and the communication and the stress courses and all the courses we teach. So this is an opportunity to get a taste. And when I say a taste, I don't mean read the menu. You know, oftentimes you're reading the menu and it looks so good, your mouth waters. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually getting the food on your plate and trying it. Hey, Peasley, good to see you. Hi.
Hey.
You know, really having a sample of what it is that's happening. So this is not just a class for talking about something. This is a class for participating. So it's wonderful. I invite you to go through there's about 3 pages of people right now to maybe thumb through and recognize, oh, you know, there's other people here. I'm not alone. I'm in this group of people. And one of the things we do in many of our classes is actually take the time to kind of feel into who's here and notice how your perception, how the person shows up with you. Some people you might be really drawn to, some people you want to go, I don't know, and other people so just take an opportunity to thumb through and see if you can get a feeling for the people that are here. And each of you has an intention, a reason that something called you to this class. And I'd love it. And Deborah can read a few of them. If you just put, well, I came here for this. Why did I come to this class? It wasn't because of Michael's good looks, but something drew me to this class. So I'm really happy you're here. You'll see me looking at 2 screens once because I like to look at everybody. So I have windows that I'm looking at so I can see people and see what you're doing. So, okay, so I think that's enough time to let people in. Anything in the chats you want to read, Deborah, while people are just mentioning that? Any intentions that people have put? What brought them here? What drew you to do this? What do you want from this? Why did you come here? Any of those kinds of things in there? If not, we can, yeah.
We've got mostly locations
Uh-huh.
and such, and we have one question. Is this scheduled for an hour or more?
It's an hour and a half, and sometimes we move over, go over a little bit, so that I can not only do, like I said, a teaching and working with you, but tonight I'm going to have a very powerful opportunity to actually go in and do a meditative practice, a journey into how we see the world. And so we'll have an opportunity to actually do that at some point tonight, later in the program. So yeah, hour and a half. Be here as long as it is nourishing and feeding you and giving you something. And, if it doesn't, then go have dinner or something.
Mhm.
But it's great to have you. And I'm really appreciative that you took the time in your evening. It says something about you. It really says to me that you're people who want to learn, want to grow, want to have a larger perspective on what's happening in the world and your relationship to what's happening. You know, part of why I do these classes is we have a lot, COVID, of course, is a big thing, and many people have died, and there's many different feelings about COVID, and it's kind of the mainstream news. But on another level, it's obfuscating what's really the real issues, the huge issues that are creeping up on us, like climate change, like income inequality, like a fundamentally broken extraction economic system that's based on continuous growth with finite resources. You put that together, you don't have a good ending in the story. So how are we going to meet these and be able to bring ourselves fully to be present in the changes that are happening? I think it's a really exciting time. It's a time when um, there are times in history, throughout history of humanity, where there's these jumps in awareness, these jumps, they call them epochs. We're in one of those times, and we're in that jump. And we were born into this time. And I want to honor and thank our ancestors, or we wouldn't be here. And it's always important to just acknowledge where we came from. And much of the way that we see the world actually comes from our ancestors. So let's start talking about this issue that I'm saying, opening the lens of perception. So you know how a camera has an aperture, an aperture, it opens and closes. And do you know why it opens and closes? On a camera, the point of an aperture is to let more light in. And I think it's a suitable metaphor for the work that we're going to do tonight is when you think of, if it's really dark, what happens? What do you do with the aperture? You open it so more light gets in. We're entering into some darkness, and this is a time to let some more light in. And part of what keeps the lens closed very small is our perception. And so, we think that what we perceive is reality, but actually reality is what we perceive. And that's what we want to explore tonight, is how does my perception shape my reality? And so I'm really excited to be doing that. And then the other part was taken from a Rumi poem. The line you've probably seen, I've added it to the statement, is why do you stay in the prison when the door's wide open? Why do you stay in the prison when the door's wide open? Because there's not enough light. You can't see the doors open. So that's our perception. Our perception is our ability to see, our ability to hear, our ability to become aware of something through all of our senses. So I invite you really now to just pay attention to the felt sense, to what you're hearing and how you're hearing it, and begin to bring some awareness in actually, how am I listening? I often tell people when I worked in the corporate world, Linda will remember this from long ago, I would tell managers and executives, you don't listen, you never did, and you never will. And you remember that, Linda? I did say that back in the days of Prudential, right? And it would get their attention. But it's actually a reality, because everything that we see is seen through filters. And it's always been that way, and it will always be that way. But when we can open the aperture, we can see much more. When we can bring more light on the way that we see, how we're seeing, then our perception gets a more and more accurate view of what's actually happening in the world. So when we combine presence and perception, we can zoom in a way and see the world in a way that expands our ability to meet the problems, the difficulties, the hardships, the overwhelming issues, the things that seem impossible and unsolvable. We bring a new amount of light to that by the way we zoom in with our perception and our presence. And in the one of the courses I teach is called The Way of the Mystic, and that's that course is all about how can I use everything in my life. So a mystic in this culture, day to day, not someone who's sitting in a cave somewhere, but a mystic I'm defining as someone who uses everything that occurs, all the difficulties, all the happenings, the things that are happening out there, the things that are happening in here, as a portal for awakening and being more present, more aware. And so many of the things we're dealing with are, well, let me say one other piece. For the most part, we aren't here. We're either in the imagined future. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when I win the lottery? What's going to happen when my dog dies? What's going to happen? You know, so we're worrying about, do I have enough money to pay the rent? Whatever it is, that future, it's an imagined future. Even though you look at climate change, you look at all these things, you can catastrophize what's going to happen, but we don't know what's going to happen. We really don't know what's going to happen in the future. And the thing that is mostly guiding us to see that imagined future is our remembered past. Our remembered past is not the past. Our remembered past, you can talk to your siblings and you say, remember that time that, and they'll go, that isn't how that happened. That didn't happen that way. No, it happened this way. So it's the remembered past. So here we are, we're trying to expand our perception, but for the most part, we're living in the imagined future and the remembered past. On top of that, we're living in a sea of trauma, which, you know, those of you who have been with me know I do a lot of work in the area of trauma. And what do I mean by trauma? Somebody's waiting to get in, Deborah. I just see someone with the waiting in the waiting room there.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about trauma, that's this frozen past that is in our body, and it shapes. It's actually in our nervous system in our body. So again, and I'm not going to get into trauma tonight, that's a much bigger subject, but just to know that we swim in a sea of trauma. There's familial trauma, there's our own personal experience of trauma, there's cultural trauma, there's ancestral trauma, there's collective trauma. There's all this going on, and it's affecting us all the time, every day. And one of the ways to bring ourselves back into the present is to really begin to work with the challenges, the difficulties, the hardships. The things that we want to push away are the juicy parts of, underneath them is the juicy parts of life. So it's our perception and our meaning making that keeps us locked into these habitual self-sabotaging ways of being, this behavior. But the good news, including about trauma, the good news is that because it lives in a story that we made up, then we have access to change that, even in trauma. Because in trauma, when there's trauma in our life, it's not the trauma that's shaping our perception and our way of viewing and seeing the world. It's the story that we made up about what happened that is keeping us, you know. So just a quick thing. It's hard to not get into a little bit about trauma. So we have this big fear comes up. We're 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, and something happens. There's a fear that comes up. And one of the examples I've used before is you're 2 years old and you're crawling and the dog barks and you come and say, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, I'm scared, I'm scared." And daddy says, "Don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared about. It's just the dog." "But daddy, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared." "Hey, I'm busy. Go away. There's nothing to be scared about." Now that seems like not a big deal. That can be a major trauma. Why? Because now I'm scared, but my daddy says I'm not scared, but I am. So something's wrong. Something's wrong with me. I better not let anybody know I'm scared. I better get strong, or I better get smart, or I better, and then we adapt to those things. But you notice that it's the story we made up that wasn't the trauma, but it was the story. So what I'm looking at here and wanting to say is when we get to know our story and we can be present with it, there's nothing to fix. That's another thing that I tell people all the time. You are not broken. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix. You don't need the courses we do, or any of the courses, really, because there's nothing broken. It's an intelligent nervous system that knows when there's fear, when there's overwhelm, when there's something happening, to suppress down that experience, to push it down. And then when we push it down, then we make up these stories. So that's the work, is really beginning to look at, well, what is these stories that make us kind of dull-headed or lazy, or just relying on the past and continuing to do the same things over and over, thinking it's going to be different. And then we wonder why things don't change, because we're not able to think clearly when we have all this fuzz. We're not able to observe accurately. We're not able to explore with curiosity effectively. And so we can't discover things newly. Things become old, like marriage, or a relationship. We're in a relationship and we know how that other person is. So we've not only limited our ability to be with the person, but we've limited our relationship in a way. Let me say it in another way. So when you're in a relationship with someone and you're laying in bed, or maybe you don't have that, but you can think of other areas, and you wake up and it's not like, whoa, who is this person I'm with? What possibilities can happen today? What amazing things are unfolding? I'm going to not know this person so I can really get to know them better. That is not how we meet our relationships, our people at work, our people in the world. We do not come with an open aperture, a lens wide open to see all the light and all the goodness. The original goodness that we're all born with is stifled and pushed down. And it's pushed down by the stories that we live inside of, the narrative that that shapes the way we see the world and the way we react to the world. So it's our story that limits our narrative, our ability to be with things, our perceptions. When we look at behavior or abilities or characteristics of ourselves and other people, the picture comes from our own personal narrative. This is my story. This is how I see the world. But notice that from that first baby where I was curious and I was looking at everything and I was reaching out and I put things in my mouth and I smelled them and I ate them, and I just, all this stuff was, we don't do that. We've lost that curiosity, that sense of awe and wonder for the world. And we've been socialized, our personal, our social, our familial experiences. All these patterns have been put in place that keep us fragmented, keep us kind of not able to see beyond the limits of this prison, this point of view that we have. And ultimately, it's our nervous system that determines what we see, what we hear, and even what we feel, because our nervous system is hundreds of thousands of years old, and it's a regulator. So when there's danger, and there often is danger, or when there's fear, or when there's something to confront, the nervous system goes into action and goes to protect you. And that's a really good thing, except that the moment that something happens and it's protected and it gets shoved down, dissociated, we call it soul loss in shamanism, gets pushed down, then and the proper ritual, the proper communication, the proper exploration isn't followed. And so that gets stuck. So we have all these frozen parts, these energy in our body that we just carry around, and it shows up like tension, it shows up like pain, and ultimately it shows up like dis-ease or disharmony. So the question is, what is it that's shaping, maintaining, and keeping those walls that block our ability to see, to feel, to think, to experience? What is it that shapes that, and how can I begin to open the aperture so I can see more clearly, so that I can override my inability to feel, sense, experience outside of my limiting stories about who I am and how life is. So there's 4 areas I want to talk about tonight, and take a look at, and then I'm going to talk about 4 ways that we can expand that lens. So is there any comment or question right now that anybody has? You can raise your hand or anything. I just want to make sure that you're following, and that it's Marius, did you have something? No. Okay.
This might be a good opportunity for me to share some of the intentions people have written in.
Oh, yes, please. That would be really good.
Okay, so I'm going to start at the top of them. So we've got to learn more about the teaching. Mm-hmm. And we have, I would like to deepen my connection with spirit. Mm-hmm. And we've got, I am here because I am inspired by Michael's work. We have, the topic resonates with me as work that I want to focus on, plus Michael's good looks. Bravo.
Hey, at 76, that means a lot. That's nice. Okay.
We have, yes, it's the middle of the night here in the UK.
Oh, somebody did make it from Europe. Thank you. Who is it?
Yet I was drawn to the class, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much. We have someone in one of our groups that's been getting up every week. She's gotten up at 2 a.m. to participate in a class. It's quite amazing. So thank you, Michelle. That's great. Any other things that people have said they want?
Yeah, I'm here to deepen my practice. I am taking, from Vincent, I am taking the Advanced Mystic course and was invited to participate. Yep. And he's looking forward to experiencing whatever comes up, beginner's mind. And we've got, I am drawn to anything and everything Michael has to offer. Oh. I feel tremendous growth during and after a class. I always want to be in the frequency of love and above. Wonderful.
I love that. And, I want to say something about love, because, Shakespeare said it was a grave mental disease. I don't agree, but love for me in this work is synonymous with presencing, not present, not presence, but presencing, because it's a verb. And so when we're actually present, and one of the ways to be more present is to be more grateful, because you can't be not present and be grateful. Otherwise, it's just oh, you look nice or something like that, but to actually be grateful. So gratefulness and and presencing are what I see is love. That I really love, and I'll talk about that more in the 4 solutions to the 4 problem areas that I want to talk about. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for all the sweet messages. That's really, yeah. Anything else, Deborah, that you wanted to share there?
Yeah, we have a lot of gratitude coming in, and it's about cultivating connectedness and experiencing sometimes hesitancy and sometimes fear and loneliness. And let's see. And we have a comment. Everything that has happened in my life has happened for me to help me grow.
Nice.
Yeah. I am here waking up this morning from the night in the cage of fear. So it sounds as though we're all here on a very similar journey, wanting that get out of jail free card, Michael.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Let me say
And
something.
we have Cindy. Cindy has raised her hand to share.
Oh, okay. Let me just say something first before I forget what I was going to say. I actually just forgot what I was going to say. So Cindy, come on.
That's good, because I was going, please don't let me say it before I forget what I was going to say. I'm younger, so yeah, you're right. You could go first. Okay. So yeah, no, I heard all the intentions, and I was, yeah, great intentions. And I think one of mine was, and this is what you were speaking about, Michael, that part about being able to, can we, and this is something I'm trying to practice, is can I see people with new, fresh eyes every day, right? And that's one of the things that Thomas talks about in his work. And because we all grow every day. Like I'm not the same today as I was yesterday, or like I'm going to be different tomorrow. Like I'm not, I would hope that people could maybe see that I've been working on stuff, and that maybe I've changed, and that maybe they can see me with new eyes, for example, as an example. So that's kind of an intention that I'm walking with right now.
That's beautiful, Cindy. Thank you. And Cindy's in the advanced course. I think we're full in the advanced course. We might have one more spot. I don't know, but I think it's full. I limited, and I remember what I wanted to say too, and that was this kind of growth that we want to do. This kind of recovering our original goodness, which means our curiosity, our wonder, our awe, our allurement, our ability to open to what's so. The missing ingredient for so many places is it's not safe. It doesn't feel safe to step into. And one of the things, that's why I like long, like 6-month groups, to create a real bond of safety, and smaller groups to create that bond of safety so that we can feel. I always tell people in my groups, I want you to feel just safe enough to feel a little bit unsafe, because it's in the little bit unsafe that the edge is, that we can open up to new possibilities, new opportunities, new ways of seeing and being in the world with the world. So yeah, thank you, Cindy. That was great. Awesome. So let's talk about these 4 areas. And I'm going to do a journey later to actually explore them more deeply. But the first one is our beliefs. So we have a lot of beliefs that we don't even think of as beliefs because they're just who we are, like our religion, our education, our economic status, the state of the world. All of these things are always shaping our beliefs and slanting our beliefs and creating barriers to our perception, to being able to let the light in and to being able to see the world clearly. So fundamentally, it's really important to actually meet and address, what are the beliefs that I have? Some of us have beliefs that money is scarce. there's no good men, there's no good women. You know, things are going to hell in a handbasket. We have these beliefs that we live inside of, you know, you know, there's going to be a second coming, whatever. You know, we all have these kind of beliefs that are shaping how we see the world. So the first thing is looking at, and you might want to write down, because I'm going to ask you to work with this in the journey that I'm going to take you on. So yeah, so beliefs are the first one. What are the beliefs that I hold that are shaping my worldview? And then there's just ideas that are floating around. They, you know, when we make decisions, when we form opinions about people, when we have ideas about someone like our spouse, you know, we're so often, or our partner, or someone we work with, we so often rob ourselves from the opportunity of really experience real love, real interconnection, because of the ideas we have. This person, everyone knows how mother is. Everyone knows how brother Bill is. Everyone knows how my wife is, my husband is, you know, as if it were a given. Well, that's creating a cage for you, but it's also creating a cage for the other person. Because we're always interbeing, we're always connecting. You know, relationship is how we discover. But if we can't feel our relationship, if we can't feel our emotions, if we can't feel sensations in our body, then we're protecting ourselves. We can't do the thing that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, the interbeing, that place of actually coming together. So all the labels that we have about people, all the ideas we have about people, you know, somebody drives by and they honk their horn and we have a whole story about that person. Now, maybe we didn't notice their wife was laying on the back seat pregnant and he was racing to get to the hospital. Who knows what caused that person to do it? But you see how immediately that's that kind of person that honks his horn. We know about people like that. So the second thing is to look at the ideas, the decisions, the opinions that we hold. The third area that I invite you to look at is the habits that we have. I mean, really to explore our habitual behavior. What are we doing to break habits? You know, I try to do different things, like, you know, dry a different part of my body when I get out of the shower, or shave down instead of up, you know, just trying different things. You know, Brother David Stendelrast, who I don't know if you've ever heard my interview with Brother David, but it's so awesome. Brother David, if you don't know him, he's it's probably 93 or 4 now. He's a Benedictine monk I met at Esalen many years ago. He was in silence for more than half of his life. And he's considered the world's greatest authority on gratefulness. Now, how's that? Wouldn't you love to have a title like that? The world's greatest authority on gratefulness. And if you get a chance to listen to the recording that we did together, it's just so sweet. But you know, where I was going there is he also has a way of breaking habits, you know, and creating gratefulness, which creates presence. It's a process of presencing. So he'll say, I'm going to be grateful for everything that's green today, or blue. Or I'm going to be grateful for everything that is connected to water. Or I'm going to notice everyone's eye colors today. Now, you know, if we create practices like that, we can break these, you know, I mean, habits are important. You learn to drive the car. You couldn't get out the door without habits, but they should be left more to mechanical things, not to love and to the way we perceive people in the world. I mean, who wants to be loved from a habit? You know, and when I look at some relationships, they're pretty habitual. They're not really very exciting. They're certainly not new. So relationships become dead and boring And I'm not talking just about spouses. I'm talking about people at work. You know, I have someone, well, you'll notice with people that have automatic responses, like when you ask somebody, how are you? What do they say? I'm fine. How are you? I actually would be interested in how you are, but there was no space there to find out anything. It's just an example of how that works. So, so habits are the third thing to really look at. What are the habits that I have that I don't even know how they're shaping me? And then a big one is attachments. You know, the Buddha says suffering, it's all about attachments, right? You know, but it's hard to let go of attachments. And actually, it's not even a matter of letting go, because that's a misnomer. Because, and this is something about all the fixing that we try to do about ourselves. When I say you're not broken, I really mean you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing to be fixed. The thing that allows us to change habits, ideas, attachments, and beliefs is awareness. So, because awareness is presencing, it's in the moment, it's bringing myself fully to this place where I can actually perceive. So, when we're present and we're dealing with a difficulty or a challenge or an issue that is overwhelming, the awareness of exactly what you're feeling, what's happening in your body, what you're thinking, how you are related to the world, when you bring awareness to that, it creates the conditions for change to happen. But when we are trying to fix something, change something, constantly trying to have something be other than what it is, all we're doing, because everything's happening in this moment, all we're doing is reinforcing that lack, that thing that we want that we don't have, that problem that we have that we're trying to get rid of. So this is, you know, where I'm starting into the second part here, but it's awareness that does the healing. So, you know, what kind of places, just thinking, maybe write in the chat some, what are some of the places where your life you feel stuck, or you feel trapped, or you feel frustrated, or blind, or overwhelmed? It's hard to see where you're blind, but you can see the results of where you're blind. So write a few things in the chat. You know, where do you meet overwhelm in your life? Where do you meet struggle? Where do you meet this sense of stuckness, hopelessness? And let's just, Deborah, you want to read some of those so we can, because I'm sure there'll be anything you write in there, there's going to be 10 or 20 more people that have the same experience.
Well, we've got one. Michelle typed in that about a possibility to do 30-day gratitude challenge videos on Facebook every day. And I think you have done that, Michael.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's wonderful. Good idea.
yeah.
I'll probably
And,
do one again. There's also the 30 days of meditations
mhm,
that are on the website now.
yeah. Oh, they're really coming in now.
Yeah, I figured they would. Give it a
We've
little.
got dealing with loss of a loved one.
Okay, let's go slow with them. Dealing with loss. Yeah, that's such an important one. We don't know how to grieve. In the West, I've done a number of shows and classes and things on this. There's a lot to grieve. And the other side of grieving is love. And if we can't grieve, it limits our ability to love. And so learning how to actually grieve, you know, in many cultures, Africa comes to mind as one particularly. Grieving is something that you really let yourself get into. You wail, you cry, you experience it, and there's not a time limit on how long to grieve. So that's such an important one. I just wanted to underline it. Go ahead, Deborah.
And we have one saying relationships with people. And I would tend to think that probably the intention there is probably challenges in our relationships. We have deeper, not yet revealed fears that keep us from loving ourselves even more with more compassion and acceptance.
Yeah.
And here's a great one: too little time.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yes,
That's a big one.
that is a big one for all of us.
There's a thing in the Tao that my teacher always talks about, and I love it. And I actually use it to remind myself when I find myself hurrying. And that is that when you see through the eyes of eternity, you'll have time for now. I just love that. Anyway, go ahead.
Being in a place of being stuck. Trying to make choices about what's next for me in my journey from here.
Yeah.
Dealing with the demands of work, support loved ones, and disease, ill health. That's a big one.
Yeah. Okay, that's beautiful. So
Numbing
whatever
out
came up for, pardon me, go ahead.
Numbing out and walking away, not making decisions.
Yeah.
Empathy, moving home, changing my life, going out in the world by myself, not knowing my final destination.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so you can see how all of those things limit us if we let them limit us. And here's the get out of jail free card. It's not a quick fix, by the way. I don't do quick fixes. If you wanted these 4 things to be like a magic wand that went, all that was gone, I'm sorry, I don't have that. But I do have a prescription that can help you in getting out of the prison, because the prison is created by our beliefs, the traditions of our society, our culture, our ideas, our prejudices, our attachments, all the things we've been talking about, the past experiences. And it can seem really overwhelming and impossible to break out of the prison. So one of the first things when you're feeling overwhelmed is to actually feel overwhelmed, to allow yourself to realize I'm in a prison. That's the first step, realizing that we're in the prison. And, there are many, many, many walls and layers to that prison. And to recognize that in many areas, your mind has gone to sleep. Now, in other work, I talk about the body and the emotions and relationships, but, I'm really working in this masterclass around mind, and the mind's gone to sleep. And so when you bring awareness to it, that I am in prison, I am stuck, and you see the walls, you become a consciousness revolutionary. You now are with what is, rather than not here being with what should be. What is the ideal? Mostly we're living in the ideal. Yeah, my wife is great, but if she could just improve this, or my husband is, or my boss, he's really kind and he's a good man, but he's just, I don't know, he's just something. We have all of these stories, but to be a consciousness revolutionary, starts with being aware. Presencing, remember I said presencing is a verb, not a noun. Moment to moment to moment, because we're not moving moment to moment to moment. We're jumping over the moment to what's the ideal, what's the desired outcome, what do I have to do to get what I want. Notice all of those things have nothing to do with being in the present. And that's what keeps us stuck in the prison. The first area is to notice I am in a prison. Yeah, I am. So what do we do when we recognize we're in the prison? Well, we contemplate the walls. We actually, meditation, sometimes I'm just looking at the wall, but, I'm talking about another kind of wall. All of the walls that we talked about, the beliefs and the attachments and the ideas, all of those habits that we hold, to actually begin to notice and to pay attention to them, because they're wanting your attention. They wouldn't be happening if they didn't want your attention. To observe your ideas, your habits, your attachments, and your fears, to actually presence yourself, presencing yourself, noticing and exploring the judgments you have about your stories, your judgments, your ideas, and how we condemn ourselves and others inside these ideas. That's a jail sentence. We sentence ourselves and we sentence others to being in a prison, because the aperture is quite closed. So we're opening the aperture here to bring more light onto the subject. And we're realizing, oh, wait, it's not fixing, it's not changing, it's not doing something other than what I'm doing. It's actually awareness that heals. And the more aware I can become about all these layers that keep me from being fully present, the more I can become curious, the more I can bring wonder, awe, all of that to it in a sense of awareness. That creates the conditions for change. There's nothing to fix. So the third one that I'm suggesting is that heighten your awareness of people and things around you. Notice how much we put people in boxes. So when you're out in the world and you go to the grocery store, notice, what's the clerk's name? What's she wearing? He wearing? What's the color of his eyes? Did he seem friendly? Can you feel that he has some emotions, or she has some emotions going on? See if you can open yourself, walking down the street, and begin to notice how you categorize people. Safe, not safe. Attractive, not attractive. We have all these little boxes we just constantly are putting in. So we heighten our awareness first of our interiority, what's happening in there. And that's basically all the courses I'm doing. All the different courses are always about heightening the interior awareness to create the space for change to happen in your life. And so when we then become aware of what's happening around us, we're also creating more inner space for people to exist and to be connected and to be related to us. And so you really look, you really look as if like for the first time. How can you look at your parents for the first time? Newly. It's amazing what can happen. How can you look at your ancestors and your ancestral stream newly and see both the gifts of your ancestors, the resilience, the life itself, the body, the looks, the everything that you've got. And then also the darkness, the things that have been passed on through many, how to discipline a child. So much trauma in early attachment phases for people because of things like Dr. Spock writing a book and saying, if your child cries, you should leave them. Even though the mother's torn to shreds inside, listening to their child, they read Dr. Spock. That child is traumatized. We are those children. So to really pay attention, not to make anybody wrong, because we see it goes back and back and back and back and back, but to just become a witness to. In the way of the mystic, I have 3 basic areas that take 7 weeks to actually communicate, but one is presencing, which I've talked about. The second is witnessing. That's the place where in meditation, and I hope some of you will join in the meditation. I do these 1-day and 2-day meditation weekends. It's trauma-informed meditation. It's not kind of sitting to get groovy and calm. It's to open ourselves and create more inner space. It's a different kind of meditation than most people think of meditation. It's a meditation that has you really looking deeply at the inner world and allowing yourself to expand your inner aperture to include it all. And, anybody who does the advanced course has to have a meditation practice. It's just, you have to be able to keep up with the movement, what's unfolding in it. So seeing things newly, the heightened awareness of people around us. And well, I just said the 4th one, I guess, sit down and meditate on how your mind functions. So watch the movement though. Watch the machinations of the mind. And when you're feeling an emotion, watch the thoughts about it and the physical reactions to it. Don't try to change or get rid of anything again. Just watch the flow of energy as it moves through your body, the feelings, sensations, kind of like if I was watching a river and I was just sitting there watching the river. It's just a flow of energy that's moving. So the 4 steps: realizing you're, becoming aware that you actually are in a prison. Contemplating the prison walls, looking more deeply. Contemplating the outer world and your inner and outer, your relationship to the inner and outer world. How are you related? And then practicing deep mindfulness, having a sitting practice, or meditating on what's occurring, and developing the capacity for presencing, and noticing where we're othering and outering and doing all the things that say that life is doing this to me. Life isn't doing anything to us. Life is just lifing. It's, it appears that thing that happened to you happened because of this. And yes, maybe there was a hit or a rape or a incarceration or, all kinds of things happen. But how are we meeting the happening in the world? We can't change necessarily the things that are happening, but what's his name? Like Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning, the last of our freedoms is the freedom to choose our attitude under any given circumstance. So we have that choice. And what I'm talking about is creating the conditions so that you can see clearly, that the aperture and the light gets big enough that you can see, so that you can make an informed choice. Okay, so let's have some questions or comments, or how does that apply to this before we go and do a meditation? So either raise your hand. I love it when you talk, It's great. It's like Cindy jumped in there, and I love that. And if you want to do that, raise your hand. With a real situation, though, if you it's a little dangerous, but I really offering to work with you and to look at something if you want to, and if you feel safe enough to do that, and maybe there isn't anything, and we can just go on. But Michelle has her hand up. Is this the Michelle that's in the UK?
It is, yes. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I just had an issue come up today when something came up, and it took me back immediately to a trauma from my childhood. And I was just like, oh, right, what to... And I do a process, Morgan Lee, it's called zero pointing, where I pinpoint which part of me is responding. Now, in that part of me that was responding there was my traumatized child. So I'll go into that and I'll say to that child, I think that child was about 3 or 4 years old, what are you feeling? How can I support you? What do you want to tell me? And that part of me will talk to me. And
Yeah.
I'll say, right, okay, that's great. Well, yeah, I welcome that in. Thank you for showing me that. But now we're grown up and we're making a different decision, and we're going to do this now. And then I will get a pen and write everything that's come up down and ceremoniously burn it, and then move forward from there. And it's such a relief when I get through that process, because it just changes my energy totally.
That's beautiful, Michelle. Thank you for sharing. That's a beautiful process. I think one thing I would add in that process is when you're getting that information from your 3-year-old or 4-year-old, is to imagine putting her on your lap and giving her the love that she didn't get at that time.
Yeah.
Have a conversation, say, sweetheart, that was really scary, and you were scared at that time, and you had, I get scared all the time too, and it's okay to be scared, and I want you to know that I love you so much. And imagine yourself just putting your arms around that younger self. And but it's a beautiful process you outlined. It's very similar to the kind of work that I do. I just wanted to add that one part because it's very visceral when you can go back and actually love that child that didn't get the love, didn't get the felt sense of somebody holding them, didn't get the touch and the sweetness of being accepted exactly as you are and as exactly as you're not. So that's the only thing I would add, maybe, Michelle, but it's very beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for getting up so late to be with us. It's 2 a.m. there, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything before we jump into a little process? Anybody in the...
We have Beata has raised her hand.
Oh, hi, Beata.
Hello.
I love to see you if it feels comfortable, and if it's not safe or it's a bad hair day, don't worry about it. But if you can, I always love being able to connect with people as they... Here you are. Hi.
Yeah, I actually spent this day lying most of it because I woke up after a night of just bathing in fear, like experiencing fear on my back, in my kidneys. Like it was quite like it did happen to me once in life before, but I wasn't afraid of the fear, but it was overwhelming fear. It was just physical experience of it. And so I woke up, I got on my bike, I said, I'm going to the ocean. So I went to swim, but on the way to swim, when I was getting the bike, I twisted, and my whole area of that part of the body around the kidneys just like cramped so hard, so strong. And so I still went to the ocean, and one part let go, and then I'm in quite a bit of pain. But the clarity that was coming for me from that pain is that I'm dealing with a landlord, that my fourth year of being with this lady, where it started with friendship and now it's difficult, and I'm kind of judging from my end of her hunger for money when the rent is frozen, and so she's trying to do creative things that I would want to leave. And what came up for me in that fear is that it's when my mom was 3 and she had to walk out with all her family from the house they lived and walk to ghetto. So my fear of moving out of the place is so huge. And then all the fear of that experience that my great grandparents went through was all there through the night. So I was curious how to move with that.
Yeah,
And I did
yeah.
connect with
Well,
my
I'm
great-
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I did connect at night and this morning to very new way connected to my great grandparents, and did work with that of going right in there with them and releasing, and was a lot that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for staying present with it and staying in your body, because so many people leave their body. And so that's really important that you did that, and that you took care of yourself too. That, you know, it's really beautiful that you took the time to take care of yourself and go to the beach. So there is an enormous amount of fear in the world today. It's being magnified by the mainstream media globally, all over. And there is so much fear that it's very hard not to feel it. And then on top of it, you're dealing with ancestral fear. You know, Thomas, the person that I, you know, is my primary teacher, Thomas Hubel, has done a lot of large-scale trauma integration work with people, particularly around the Holocaust, and with people in Germany and with people in Israel. And you know, the process that I'm talking about, it just makes it a little more difficult, but that you have the awareness to stay with it, and that you're actually looking at what is being handed down to me, and how can I be with that in a way that I can feel the fear, but I can integrate not only my trauma, but my ancestral trauma. And again, the more awareness that we can bring to it, the more specific and precise we can be with that fear, the more that we can meet it in a healthy way rather than moving away from it. And you didn't move away from it. And sometimes, you know, I've had times when I got to a point about 4 years ago where, as 40 years of working on climate issues, that I just thought, you know, we're screwed, you know, and the fear, and I went through all kinds of fear, and I went, you know, at some point when I realized that we live in a sea of trauma, I went, oh, that's the actual issue, is this sea of trauma that we're in. And that's the issue that, for me, it then took all my attention. The last 4 years, I've put so much attention in that area, being someone who came from a lot of trauma also. And so I don't have like a suggestion, Beata, but I just want to acknowledge that I think you're doing exactly what you need to be doing, and to continue to deepen it and feel through the layers of ancestry that how that's been passed down to you, will just that awareness allow a release of some of the tension, say, you know, that you're feeling in your body. So the body is always the interpreter. It's always, if you go to the body and find that place and just keep giving space to that pain that you're feeling there and to the fear, you it it's what's the word I want to say? It's a can't think of the word I mean, but you can't do it in order to get rid of it. That's the one thing I have to say to people, that often, okay, I'm going to do this work so I can get rid of it. No, the minute you're saying I'm going to get rid of it, you're not with it anymore. You're trying to get to someplace other than where you are. And that's something that we often do. That's one of the traps. I feel that do it so that you can deepen your awareness and feel more whole in your experience, and bring more awareness and light to it. And chances are that it will dissipate. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the question is the balance. How, I mean, still there is parenting involved, right? You want to bring the balance between going back and staying present.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you're going back, you're still presencing.
Okay.
It's going back and dwelling in that and not being present.
Okay.
So if you're parenting, you have kids?
Yeah.
How old are they?
11 and 17.
Yeah. So the more that you're able to be with the trauma, the more space it makes for them, because you're presencing it. It's when you're absencing with the trauma that it has the effect on our children. When we're pushing it aside, what you're teaching them is how not to feel if you're pushing it away. If you go into it, go into the eye of the storm, then they'll see that it's okay to feel that way and have those feelings, and that I have trauma passed on through my lineage. That's particularly true of very young children, but really, you know, I'm still working with my 44-year-old daughter, you know, and the traumas that we had in our life and in our history too, in our ancestry. So, yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. It's such an important area that you're talking about. And yeah, I just salute you for taking the time to bring it up, but also to really work with the fabric. I mean, it's such a good example that you really felt it, and you worked with the fabric and the feelings and the physical sensations and the emotions of it and around it. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about, bringing awareness to it. Thanks, Beata. Where are you located now?
Same place, Roberts Creek.
In Roberts Creek. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's right. Okay, good to see you. And thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if there's not any more hands up, let's see. Let's just do a meditation, okay? So I'm going to take you on a little journey, and what I'm going to do is kind of get us present, and then I'm going to invite you to actually spend time. Some of you do shamanic work. You can use a guide, you can use a spirit animal, or you can just use your inner GPS. Doesn't matter how you do it, but I'm going to invite you to look at the beliefs, the ideas, the habits, and the attachments, and to become aware of how they're shaping the way that you see the world, and the cost of holding on to them. So we're just wanting to take some time to bring some light, not trying to change them, just trying to bring awareness to them, to be curious about them, to just rest in the light of awareness as it comes up, and be particularly aware of, oh, that's curious. I never thought of that. I never saw that before. Be curious about what's the payoff. There's nothing that happens in our body, in our life, in our mind, in our emotions that doesn't have a design function. In other words, it's all working. There's nothing within us that is that's not serving a purpose. So when we go into a fear or a difficulty that we're holding on to, the habits, the beliefs, the ideas, and attachments, it has a design function. It's working. But what is it working for? Who's paying its salary? What's paying its salary? So I just want to take some time to, and also notice the tendency to not want to let go of them. There's a lot of our habitual behavior that, yeah, I like that. I like being judgmental about people, because, for whatever reason I have for that. You can't trust people. Oh, is that underneath that? I can't trust people. Where did that come from? Okay, so we're going to do a little sitting here. So let's just let yourself have a straight back position. Feel your feet on the floor. Let's just take a moment to feel our weight. Feel our connection with the chair, the cushion, the fabric of our clothes on our skin. And let's take a couple deep breaths together. We breathe in, feel the quality of breath, and notice the pause at the top of the breath. And we release on the out breath. And if you elongate the out breath a little bit, you'll notice you can go deeper into the body. We want to really allow ourselves to feel the flow of energy in the body, to feel any tension in the body. This conversation may have exacerbated some tension. Noticing any place you might be holding energy, your jaw or hands, shoulders and neck. Just kind of do a body scan and bring a felt sense and awareness to, I'm in a body. There's an outside, there's an inside. And how do I feel inside my body? Is it tight and contracted? Or does it feel open and spacious and alive? And whatever it is, it's just exactly the way it is, and therefore the way it should be. Not the ideal body, just the one that's there. Notice any emotions that might be coming up. Can you name them? Can you feel the emotion? Where do you feel it in your body if you feel an emotion? Maybe there's several emotions. Sadness and fear, joy and compassion. And just get a sense of your ability to move from feeling the body to feeling the emotions. Emotions are the fabric of how I connect with the world and with others. Just breathing into that. And notice the quality or the state of mind. Is it busy in the chat room? Is there a party going on there, or is it kind of still and open? Just noticing how it is. And feeling a sense of how related you feel to your body, to your life. To the world. A sense of belonging or separation. And then just settling in and again, feeling your weight. I'm just going to look at what are the beliefs that I have? Beliefs about how life is, how people are. Who are the good people or the bad people? How is my religion, my culture, my economic status shaped my beliefs about the world? And what are they? Just noticing. Notice any ideas you have about life and living, people, work, play. Maybe some ideas about the future, how it's going to unfold. Ideas about getting old. And just noticing what comes up. What habits do you have? The ones that you would like to stop? And maybe some that you'd like to attain? Better at keeping financial records or being of service? What are the habits that you have and that you don't have that you'd like to have? And what are you attached to around your identity, your work, your family? What attachments do you have? And just noticing. And just take one or several of them to look a little deeper. How are these beliefs, attachments, and habits shaping your worldview, shaping the way you meet the world? Where did they come from? What are the beliefs that you have? Are they true? Are they universal? Like if we say money's scarce, is that true for everyone? Or is that part of our beliefs? Part of our habits, habitual thinking. And what's the payoff and the cost of having these beliefs, these ideas, these habits, these attachments? Again, just take one or two. What's the payoff? What's the cost? We're not trying to change them. We're just bringing awareness, bringing the light of awareness to them. Bringing curiosity, bringing a sense of not knowing. Whatever you think you know, put that aside and bring not knowing, wonder, curiosity. What do you get by holding on to them? Maybe you've looked at them many times before, but look at them as if with new eyes for the first time. Like you just discovered this amazing animal and you were just, wow, exploring. What makes this animal tick? And notice if there's a tendency to want to hold on to the beliefs and the habits and the attachments. It's an attachment after all. And the ideas. How would it feel if you turned and walked away from whatever it was you're exploring? I'm done with that. Really? So just take another moment, feeling into that. Whatever you chose to look at or work on, how has it touched your body? What's the body reaction to it? Did your breath change when you were exploring it? Did it bring up any emotions? Were you able to find a payoff and a cost? Does it remind you of someone else, like a parent, grandparent? And just noticing. And let's take a couple deep breaths together. Bring ourselves back into our body. Maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. And you might want to take a moment to write down some things that came up for you. Let's just take a moment to do that. welcome back. So let's take a moment to just share anything you'd like to share about what came up for you, what you noticed, any insights, any ahas, or any struggle too. Just whatever came up. Either raise your hand or put something in the chat, either way. And while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand or put something in the chat, I just want to say we're getting close to the end here, and to invite you to check out the programs. There's Deborah, you want to put those in the, I don't even know the dates, but there's a 1-day deep dive meditation. As I said before, it's really focused on trauma-informed meditation, what that looks like. And then the basic course that we teach, The Way of the Mystic, is coming up in September. That's my favorite of those courses. And then there may be one more place in the I think it's full, but there might be one more spot. There's a couple people that haven't finished filling out their paperwork. So if you're really interested in that, and like you want to make a 6-month commitment to a deep dive group, then the agreement is that you'll be at least at 75% of the classes in that one. And for the most part, I don't know, Marius, how many have you missed in a year? Maybe 2 or 3, if that.
I think one.
I think that's pretty much the same for everybody. A lot of the people have gone on from other 6-month programs that don't want to leave. So if you want to get on the list to be in that, go and fill out the application. It is an application, and I have an interview. And if a lot of people do, I'll start another group. But right now, that's not in the works. I'm not planning on it. But if 15 of you said, I want to do that, then I might start another group. So let's see. So anything in the chat, Deborah, to begin to bring ourselves into closure here?
We have one comment, a belief, I would imagine a false belief. The world is a dangerous place, so stand back. How to turn that around?
Oh, great. And it says how to turn that around at the.
Yes.
Yeah, don't turn it around. Somebody's trying to get in.
I've let them in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, don't try. What there is to do is to be with that the world's a dangerous place, and to really feel that and experience that and allow yourself to look at it and say, what age is this belief that the world is a dangerous place? I promise you it's in the first few years of life. And so you go back and you allow yourself to be with it. And like Beata was talking about, the ability to feel it and be with it and go back and then embrace it and hold it. It's such a powerful thing to do. It's a belief. I know it's a belief because not everyone has that. It's not universal, although a lot of people have it. And most people that have it generally have some early childhood trauma around attachment, generally. Not always, but the main point is, how do you get out of it? You don't. You immerse yourself in it and you feel it and you love it. You learn to love it. Oh, I forgot. So I said presencing, witnessing, where we split off and we see ourselves. I'm sorry. Sometimes it takes me a day or two to finish a sentence. So please forgive me. It's just part of my age, I think. So I was talking about in the Way of the Mystic course, presencing, the verb presencing, bringing perception and presence, zooming it in, into the focus. Second stage, witnessing. When you meditate, there's a place you get to where you realize, wait a minute, I'm watching my mind. Who's watching my mind? Am I too? That's when you suddenly move into the witness and you can go deeper in as the observer of all of these things that we're talking about. And then we become intimate with our interior workings through the witness. And then the third part is, in response to what that person was saying, is embracing, being able to actually love whatever's arising, because it's what's arising. You don't have to like it, but loving is bringing precision and presence to it. And again, that allows the conditions to manifest for it to dissipate. And again, you can't do it in order to get rid of, because that's just more of the same old, same old. Beautiful. Anything else in there that we want to deal with? I just want to say how grateful I am for you taking the time on a Wednesday night to spend an hour and a half, really looking and bringing awareness to your own life. That alone has opened the aperture, I promise you. And I want to invite you to watch your dreams tonight and just pay attention in the next 48 hours of anything that comes up and begin to just heighten your awareness of your interiority and what's happening. What are the sensations? What are the feelings? What are the emotions? How am I looking at myself? Am I looking at myself the same way I was looking at myself yesterday? Maybe not. So paying attention. And so, that you took the time on a Wednesday night to join us, I just am so grateful. And that you're part of the Well of Light family, our tribe. You're really welcome to participate. And like I said, I do a lot of these free events and I also do classes. Maybe I'll also put a plug in for my radio show, We Earth Radio. I've been doing that for 16 or 17 years and have some really brilliant and amazing people. I'd check out Brother David would be one, and many other people. So
I've put the links in the chat for everyone, and
thank you, Deborah.
also can be found on the website, and I've added the link. We do have a very, I think, important question from Ciro, and he writes, "Thank you for this inner deep dive. How do you deal with deep-seated guilt, especially when it's there because of people, parents, who are unable to feel it and realize what they did?"
Yeah. Well, that's a big issue. So I'll just touch on it, but there's a lot more to it. So guilt often, particularly the way you're speaking of it, comes out of the decisions we make in the early attachment phase. So it's also why often people can't say no. And it's, let me see if I can get a short scenario here to, okay. Let's put it around no, because a lot of the guilt comes in this area of setting boundaries and saying no. So I'm going to connect a few things here. let's say you're being fed broccoli and you're 1.5 years old, and they put broccoli in your mouth and you go, oh, yuck, terrible. You don't say yuck, terrible. You just go, oh. What is the 1.5-year-old saying? Saying, no, don't put that in my mouth. Okay, but then you have to eat this broccoli. Then you get angry. And then you get sent to your room. There's the formation of early guilt right there. And why we often can't say no is because it's not okay. It's not safe to say no. It's not safe to express my feelings outward. And so what there is to do is to go back to that place where we made the decision. It's not safe. So that's a shorter answer of something I spent a lot more time in the way of the mystic, like a whole session on. But I hope that communicates and gives you some avenue for looking. Okay, anything else, Deborah? You're muted.
You think I'd know better as the moderator. We have a lot of very beautiful comments of gratitude and thanks to you, Michael, for your offering, for your teachings. Lots of blessings directed your way.
Thank you so much. Really, it's such an honor. I couldn't do this without you. I want you to get that. I really love doing what I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for you. So thank you for taking the time to be with me. And I hope to see you in some of the courses. And, I'm not a hard salesman. Just join us when it feels the time is right. So much love to you all. Thank you to the ancestors. Thank you to each of you. And thank you for opening the light of your own lens. That's what changes the world. Not fixing the world, not taking on any big challenging, just opening the aperture so more light comes in and more light goes out into the world. And it changes the consciousness. Like Margaret Mead said, don't ever underestimate the change that a small group can make. In fact, that's the only way it's ever happened. So much love to you all. And we'll put this recording up in case you want to share it to someone. It'll be up in the next few days. So, all right. Thank you. Much love and bye for now. You can unmute and say goodbye if you want.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good.
Next
Safe.
week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Much love.